Hey everybody, this is Carissa Reiniger from Silver Lining, and welcome to another session of SLAPschool. We're so happy to have you here. So today we're going to kick off a brand new series all about connecting strategies and how to use connecting strategies in order to find your ideal client and ultimately hit your goal. And this is a topic that I'm particularly passionate about because I really believe in the importance of really trying to use these connecting strategies. And it's one of the best kept secrets, I feel like, of SLAP that so many people kind of miss the point of. And so I'm excited to really teach it to you and remind you of how amazing all these connecting strategies are. So let's back up and let's kind of just put this into context. As you went around, and built your SLAP, you of course went through a series of steps, and we can even see them here in SLAP Center. So you thought about your SLAP mindset, and you kind of got into the prep work of really figuring out, that you're ready to grow, you're committed to your growth. Then you thought about your SLAP statement. You defined your what, your who, and your scale, and you really thought deeply about what you're here to accomplish, who you really want to support with what you have to offer, and the scale that you want to grow your business. Then you did a whole overview of your ideal client, right? Who is that ideal client and what are their specifics? Are they married? Are they single? Do they have kids? What kind of job do they have? Where do they live? And as you got to know who your ideal client was in a really specific way, it opens up the path for you to be able to connect with them. And then you come in and you build your action plan. And as you build your action plan, a crucial part of your action plan is really choosing and defining what connecting strategies that you're going to use in order to connect with your ideal client to hit that 1-year goal that you created. So what's so interesting is that, one of the primary questions that I hear from a small business owner is, how do I find more clients? How do I find more business? How do I create more revenue? That's the thing that all of us are always wondering. How I want more business, I want more clients, I want more revenue. And the answer to that is connecting strategies. Now, what is so fascinating to me is that we all say we want more business, we want more customers, we want more revenue. But when the rubber hits the road, so often we go back to what we call the cash flow capacity catch-22, and we run around like chickens with our heads cut off. And instead of doing the strategic things that we know will get us new business, we just run around. And so the connecting strategies, the point of the connecting strategies when I originally built them years ago was to try to come up with essentially very affordable and very cost-effective ways to find more customers, to ultimately go into the world and to connect, that's why we call them connecting strategies, to connect with more of your ideal client so that you can hit more of your goals. And so these connecting strategies are essentially what other people might call a marketing strategy or a lead gen strategy or a business development strategy. But in the world of Silver Lining, we don't want you to market or sell or do lead gen. That's so gross. What we want you to do is know your business inside and out. Know who your ideal client is inside and out. And then think of every single way that we can connect with that ideal client. And so these are the ways that you connect. And so to that age-old question, how do I find more clients? You use connecting strategies, okay? To that age-old, question and issue, I'm so busy, I'm running out to get with the head cut off, I can't keep up. Great. Stop doing everything and just do your connecting strategies. To that age-old, conundrum that we all have, I don't have enough money for marketing. Great. Stop marketing. Start connecting. To that age-old, fear and grossness around sales, right? I hear all the time, I hate sales. I don't want to do sales. It makes me feel gross. Great. Don't do sales. We agree. Connect. And so if you want more customers, if you don't have money to spend on marketing, if you hate being gross and salesy, if you feel like you're around like a chicken with your head cut off and you need to, cut down on your activity, but you still need more customers, the solution to all of those problems are connecting strategies. These connecting strategies. Okay, so now let's talk about what they are. What is a connecting strategy and how do you use it to grow your business? So you can see that there's 10 connecting strategies here. Now, if you've already built your SLAP, you will have listened to a video where I explain each of these 10 connecting strategies in quite a bit of detail, and you rated them. So in this test account, you can see that I've rated these different connecting strategies based on how, in my fake assessment, how I think that these can help me reach James. But the first thing that I'll say about connecting strategies is that the goal is not for you to build a marketing plan or a sales plan that really feels good to you. You see that even in our software design, our ideal client, James, is in the center of the connecting strategies, because the ultimate question that you need to ask when you're thinking about how to create activities, right, actions that you can go into the world to do and to ultimately connect with your ideal client, the questions you have to ask is not, do I want to do that, or do I like the idea of that, or do I think that's the thing that I should do? The ultimate question when you're thinking about connecting with someone is, what do they need? What do they respond to? What do they want? So if I was building a SLAP to connect with my ideal client, James, I wouldn't think about how I want to be in the press, so I want to do media, or I like going to events, so I should do events, or I really want to write a blog, so I should do online connecting. No, what I'd be asking is, what does James do, right? Does James respond well to referral emails? Does James, respond well to loyalty? Does James read blogs? Does James go to events, right? Does James read media? And so it doesn't really matter. One of the fundamental shifts that has to happen if you want to connect with your customers in order to find more of them, and if you want to spend less time and less money doing salesy and markety things and more time just connecting with customers to hit your goals, the number one rule that you have to start with is it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't really matter what you want. All that matters is what your ideal client wants and what your ideal client thinks and what your ideal client ultimately responds to. And so the first rule is you got to put your ideal client at the center of how you think about how to go get more ideal clients, which seems so obvious, but so often doesn't happen. Now, the second rule of connecting strategies is that it's really, really hard to keep up with the activity that is required to do all of these things. And so what happens really often as we grow our small businesses is that we get really, really nervous that we don't have enough business. And so we launch a whole bunch of activity at the wall, right? We send out a referral email. We try to rush solve a couple partnerships. We, cold call a couple people. We go to 3 networking events. We, try to think about press that we want to get. We launch a special offer. We start a blog, right? Like we do all these things because we need activity. We feel like we've got to move, and our anxiety moves us into kind of like action frenzy. But then what happens is you've started all this stuff that you can't keep up with. And so instead of building consistency in the market and instead of building trust with your ideal client, you essentially start a bunch of stuff that you can't really follow through and stop. And so the impact of that is that you're actually worse off than you started. You've now wasted a bunch of time and money without getting results. And so one of the things that we really believe is that if you want to connect with your ideal client in such a way that it actually creates new business, that takes time. Connection is about, getting to know someone, creating trust, getting a chance to understand their needs, offering solutions, and then ultimately that results in a transaction that is mutually beneficial, right? So what they teach us in sales and marketing is, tell everyone about yourself, broadcast your message, push it out through social media, buy booths, spend money, buy ads, get on the phone, sell, close the deal, right? That's kind of like standard sales and marketing training. What we believe is totally different. What we believe is you need to know who your ideal client is. You need to know where they are and what they respond to. You need to understand their needs intimately, because as you understand their needs, you have the ability to figure out how to solve them. Once you understand their needs, you have to use these connecting strategies to get in touch with them, right? If they're at events, great, let's go to some events. If they read media, great, let's figure out how to get into the press. If they respond really well to online marketing and online tools and online resources, great, let's get online. Right? Whatever is true for your ideal client, we need to get into that game. We need to go find our ideal client. We need to go connect with them. But that's just the beginning. Once we've connected with them, which we're going to talk more about in a minute, Then we have to nurture that relationship. And then we have to, build trust. And we have to demonstrate that we actually understand their needs and we have a solution for them. And then as they know us and they realize that we really know them because we're so focused on our ideal client, then this beautiful magic happens. Then deals happen, transactions happen, we do business together. But it's not that we sold them something or they bought something from us. It's that they had a need. We know their need because we've got such a focused SLAP statement. We've connected in an organic way. We've met them where they're at. We've built a relationship where we've been able to educate them and expose them to the fact that we really understand their needs and we have a solution. And then it's a mutually beneficial transaction when it all comes together. We get new business, we get to grow our business, and the customer, the ideal client that you have, gets one of their needs met. And so that's what we believe a really healthy, beautiful way to find new business looks like. And so that's why we say this idea of calling it a connecting strategy, you'll see we're following all the same rules, right? We're thinking about events and partnerships and referrals. I mean, we're thinking about the same types of things that everyone else is thinking about. But there's an orientation around it that's different. We don't want you selling and marketing. We want you connecting. And it's philosophical, but it's also very practical because we see that we get better results when we do this. And so the introduction to connecting strategies, the introduction to connecting strategies before we go into the deeper details of it are a couple of things in summary. Number one, let's connect. Let's not market and sell, let's connect. Number two, if you really know your ideal client and you really own what you offer, then you don't have to market and sell. You just have to connect. You have to show up where your ideal client is and connect with them and educate them about the fact that you really understand their needs. And then the deal often happens really naturally. And we're going to talk more about that. The next rule of connecting strategies, and the next thing just to think about and understand, is that it is not about you, right? When we go, so many consultants who help you think about your marketing strategy, your sales strategy, and your online strategy, right? They're really thinking about how to tell the world about you more, how to build your brand. I don't believe in that. I mean, I think it's important to do those things, but through the lens of what your ideal client needs, where your ideal client is, what your ideal client will respond to, it's all about them. Marketing and sales and connecting and growth, it's not about us. It's about your ideal client. So when I think about silver lining and when I think about growing it, I'm not sitting there thinking about me all the time, right? I could care less about my personal brand or my Twitter followers. I care about James, my ideal client. Where's James? Where's he at? What's he doing? Wherever he is where I want to be because I want to go connect with James. It's not about me. It's about James. All right, and lastly, the other thing to remember is, we want to be in smart action. None of us as small business owners have enough time and money to do everything. And so when we get freaked out because our sales are low, or when we get freaked out because we think we're going to lose a big customer, or when we get freaked out about whatever reason we get freaked out, going into action frenzy is not the right solution. What we want to do is go into really smart, really strategic connecting strategies. Increase our volume, but stay focused and stay on track. So our job, as we always talk about with SLAP, is to be proactive, not reactive. Okay, so what that would look like is, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose one of my big clients. This is freaking me out. Okay, pause, right? Where's my ideal client? How do I get more of them? What connecting strategy works best for me? Maybe I need to up the ante and do double this quarter and do double the activity. So if I was going to do 6 events, I got to do 12. If I was going to have 80 people on my hit list, I got to move it to 160, right? So we double down and we increase our activity levels, but we do it strategically within the context of our connecting strategies, not running around like chickens with our heads cut off. All right, so now let's talk about what it means. I want to talk about kind of 3 things. The first is, what are these connecting strategies and why are they, why did we select these 10 and how do you use them? Number 1. Number 2, I want to talk about action items and I want to talk about the cycle of a connecting strategy and why we recommend you essentially do 1 connecting strategy each quarter. So I'm going to do that second. And then third and finally, I'm going to talk about and just kind of end with a real thoughtful overview around what it means to close a deal, right? And so what it means to actually bring this into completion. So let's start with the first. So why these 10 connecting strategies, right? How do you use them? What do they do? So these 10 connecting strategies are based on essentially, as you guys know, years and years and years and years and years of working with small businesses and watching the experiences of thousands of small businesses go out into the world to try to grow their business. And what we realized is that it's actually kind of straightforward. It's actually not that complicated, right? And so I'll just quickly run through these 10 connecting strategies and help you understand how we think you can use them to grow your business. So Connect Prep, this is one that we don't recommend you use unless you really have to. But oftentimes, if your brand is really outdated, or if you have different messages in the market, or if maybe your website says one thing, but then your sales reps say something else, or your styles don't match, right? If there's really a genuine inconsistency in your message, your brand, and your offering in the market, sometimes we recommend that you actually pause and you take your first quarter to do Connect Prep. And this essentially means that you just reorganize and reorient and rebrand and refocus your message so that as you go out into the world in your next quarters and as you really, double down on finding new customers and connecting with new customers, they won't be confused. One of the things that happens, which really reduces your ability to close sales and grow your business, is confusion. And so one of the things we see a lot with small businesses is that, you have multiple things in the market, right? You've got a website that has one message. You've got a brochure that has a different message. When you're actually talking to a customer and selling them, you're selling them on something else that you've just dreamed up. And so the customer doesn't actually understand what you do, who you are, what you stand for. And so if that's true, then you would do a Connect Prep quarter, which is not actually about going and finding new business. It's actually about making sure your business is ready for connection, okay? And we only recommend that you do that if you really need it, because it's not a revenue-generating quarter. And if you do it, you always should do it in the first quarter. Now, a referrals quarter is great. Pretty much everyone in the world, I think, can benefit from doing a referrals quarter. And a referrals quarter is essentially the simple practice of coming up with a list of 100 people who care about you and asking for help. And it literally is that you send an email to 100 people. You say, hey, I'm trying to grow my business. This is who my ideal client is. This is the need I solve for them. Do you know anyone who looks like my ideal client, who needs what I do? I'd love to talk to them. And that's it. And you nurture those relationships and you follow up and you do that for a quarter. And 99% of the time, a referral quarter just gets beautiful results. The next strategy is a partnerships quarter. This is when you think to yourself, you know what, there's other people in the world who have a very similar ideal client to me. They have someone who, they also have James as their ideal client. And so wouldn't it make sense for us to cross-market? Or wouldn't it make sense for me to offer something to their database? Or wouldn't it make sense to essentially try to figure out how to leverage the fact that they already have a big database of my ideal client, and if I could connect into it in some beneficial way, that would be easier than me having to go find my ideal client one by one. And so when you do a partnerships quarter, you essentially build a list of other organizations who also have your ideal client, and you figure out ways to partner. Hit list is really straightforward. This is where, you think, I want to work with those 40 organizations or those 40 people or those 40 trade shows or those 40 whatever conferences. And you make a list and you figure out how to get a hold of them and you do the research and you do the work. And, it's not really cold calling because it's not like you're sitting there pounding the phone, day in, day, night, but it is aggressively pursuing a list of people that you think you should be working with and dedicating time and energy to it. Leveraging people trying to find mutual connections, reaching out cold and trying to get a meeting or get a conversation going, and just being really intentional about it. Events, there's 3 ways that you can use events. You can host events, you can go to events, and you can partner in events. And essentially, if you believe that your ideal client is active and at events a lot, then you want to do an events quarter. You want to essentially get out into the world and use events. Media, is essentially where you are either the expert in the media on a topic or you're the story, right? The media can be talking about you. And you think that if you were the expert in the media or you were the story, your ideal client would respond really well to that. And so you invest the time and energy to put together press releases, put together content, get it out to media, not any media, but specifically media that your ideal client actually pays attention to. And you try to find and connect with your ideal client through media. Special deals is where you essentially think about ways that you can add value to try to get people across the finish line. So, we always talk about this isn't necessarily like just doing a big blowout, a big random, I'll just sell, everything at 50% off. No, that's not really what we mean. But this is about creating VIP offers, special value, really trying to offer a special deal that incents your customer to cross the finish line. And that could be true if you're a product or a service, right? What's the special deal that you could offer that would actually make your ideal client excited? What do they need? What do they value? What is something you could give them above and beyond your offering, your standard offering, that would move the needle, where they would say, I really want that. I'll get it. You've got my attention now. I'll buy what you're selling so that I can get access to that. And so this is really about, creating extra incentives that reflect the needs and the interests of your ideal client to move them across the finish line. Online connecting is about figuring out how to connect with your ideal client online. Now, every single person on the planet asks me, do I need a social media strategy? And my answer is always, is your ideal client online? If your ideal client spends time on Twitter, you need to be on Twitter. If your ideal client spends time reading blogs, you should write a blog. If your ideal client, spends all their life posting on Instagram, you should be on Instagram. But if they don't spend their time online, you don't have to be online either. So there's no right or wrong answer to, do I need a social media strategy? The question better is your ideal client online? Where are they online? And where could you go meet them? An online connecting quarter is actually a lot like an events quarter, except it's online, right? You can go to events, right? You can go to things online where they are. You could host events online, right? You could host webinars. You could host online events, online conferences. You could host all sorts of things online, and you could partner online, right? You could run ads. You could be on a podcast. You could do all sorts of things that essentially put you into online audiences. And so online connecting is essentially about finding your ideal client online and helping them find you online. Loyalty is really important if you have a business where you can upsell or where you sell subscriptions or ongoing business. And loyalty is essentially saying, instead of going and finding new business, why don't I just create such amazing loyalty with my existing customers that I can grow my business through my existing customer base? And so loyalty is ultimately not about being salesy and upselling, but loyalty is about actually making sure that when your customer has needs, you meet them above and beyond what they pay for. The number one way to create loyalty is to understand who your ideal client is, understand what their needs are, and help solve problems that they're not even paying you to solve, right? Add value above and beyond what they're paying you for. And if you spend a whole quarter just doing that with your existing customers, it's kind of amazing what impact that has on your bottom line. Now, a slap nap is acknowledging that sometimes there's just a couple months a year where you can't do business development, right? Accountants are great examples of this. During tax season, the only thing a small accounting firm can think about is just surviving, right? Never mind actually going and growing their business. And so they need a slap nap. Sometimes that is just true, where strategically you build a slap nap into your business. Maybe you're a retail business, and your business is so busy over the holiday season that you can't do anything but just survive, right? Do a slap nap and then think about strategic business development in the other 3 quarters. So it's really important that you don't abuse a slap nap, but it's there because it's just true. Sometimes you guys have seasonal businesses, and it's just the way it is. And those are the 10 connecting strategies. Now you can see that in each one of them, there are nuances around how you can go and use these different strategies to connect with your ideal client to hit your goals. And so that is what we want you to be thinking about. And this is how we can show you, why are these different connecting strategies? It's because they allow you to connect with your customer in different interesting ways based on your strengths and based on your customer's realities. Now, I'll just show you guys, I'll do a little sneak peek in our software here. One more thing I want to say about connecting strategies is, we force you when you build a SLAP inside of SLAP Center to only choose one connecting strategy per quarter. And that is very much on purpose. And the reason for that is you can absolutely not do what we're describing to you in terms of, being thoughtful, being strategic, doing this work. You can't do multiple connecting strategies at once, right? When we started the conversation, we talked about how we don't have enough time and we don't have enough money to do marketing and sales. And so what we've really learned, and we ask you to really trust us on this, that if you want to be robust and strategic in creating connections with your customers that will generate new leads, but you can do it in a way that you can sustain, you do one of these strategies per quarter. So in any given year, you're able to essentially do, 4 connecting strategies, okay? And the last thing I just want to say on this first point is that once you've built your, your strategy, once you've figured out which of these connecting strategies make the most sense for you, it's really important to then, of course, break it down into very succinct actions. And so what we've actually done is we've templated the list of activities that you need to do in month 1, month 2, and month 3 of your SLAP. And so if you look inside of, SLAP Center, as I tour you through, if your Q1 was Connect Prep, there's your action items. We've templated. We're going to tell you exactly what to do. In Q2, if you have an events quarter, here's all the things to do in month 1, month 2, and month 3. And this leads me to my second point that I said I was going to talk to you about, which is how do you actually, nurture these leads? What does it mean to take action that actually results in, real sales? So one of the reasons that we think that you need to work on a connecting strategy for 3 months at a time is that you don't just want to open up a bunch of new connections, right? So what we see happening in a lot of small businesses is that you're essentially, running around, writing a blog post, going to an event, doing this ad campaign for $500 as a test, calling this person here, launching a blog, right? You're doing all these starting activities. And what that does is that creates the beginning of a sales funnel. That creates the ability, to maybe meet some new people, right? So now you have an extra 10 names. Now what, right? The problem with opening up a lot of activity and not actually closing it is that you never get the sale. So what you're doing is you're exerting a lot of time, you're exerting a lot of money, and you're generating, new activity. Great. But if you're not translating that activity into results, you're actually making things worse for yourself, right? You'd be better off not generating any activity at all because you'd save all the time and money that you just spent to generate that activity. And so the 3-month rhythm of a connecting strategy is that in the first month, you're creating activity, all the things I just described, right? So if you're an events quarter, you're signing up for events, you're going to events, you're building a budget, maybe you're planning an event you can host. I mean, you're doing all the starting activity. In month 2, you're doing the nurturing activity, and you're really thinking about, okay, now that I've met people at these events, I'm going to send out follow-up notices, and then I'm going to have time in my calendar to go for coffee meetings or to do the pitches or to do the whatever, and then you've got a 3rd month to do additional follow-up, to do meetings, and to try to actually turn this activity into sales. And so what happens so often is that if we think about, this events quarter as an example, in a 3-month cycle, right? Month 1, open activity. Month 2, drive activity and nurture activity. Month 3, drive activity and close activity. If we think about that cycle as a cycle that you should be in, essentially for 4 quarters every year, what most of us are doing is just doing opening activity, right? Opening activity all the time, 12 months a year. And we're burnt out and we're tired and we're spending time and money, but we're saying this chronic thing, which is, I spend all this time and money, I do all this networking, I do all this stuff, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And if I always hear this, I try to do all these things and it just doesn't work. I'm just not getting new customers. Okay, the reason it's not working is because you're not giving yourself enough time to nurture and to close. And so, as I said earlier, right, like the idea of a connecting strategy is that we need to not just be marketing and selling. We need to be connecting in such a way that it's sustainable for us, right? And the way we make it sustainable for us is to only do one strategy per quarter, like I'm showing you here. The second way, though, that it's sustainable for us and then also effective for the small business is that as we're generating all these new activities, we're giving ourselves and our ideal client time to actually translate all this new activity into trust and into relationship and then ultimately into sales. And so it's really important, again, that we shift our framework from sales bliss, growth hacking, lead gen, marketing, brand, 3-week sales extravaganza, all these things that we do that we think are going to instantly solve our problems. And we think about connecting. And this is why we're so passionate about connecting strategies. And this is why we believe so fully in them, is because we really believe that if you connect and if you give each of your connecting strategies a full 3-month rotation, you can spend way less time and way less money and completely increase your results. Now, just a little hack, for those of you who have a SLAP, look how amazing this is. For those of you who don't have a SLAP, we want you to understand that we have so many resources available to help you. As I've noted, I personally wrote these based on all of my experience with marketing and sales and connecting. I personally have written, the standard action items that you need to do in month 1, month 2, and month 3 for every single one of those 10 connecting strategies that we referred to. The other really cool thing is that inside of SLAPschool, there's a training and tools area. And for every single connecting strategy, we have a list of training and tools that help you actually do those action items that we've written. And so if you're doing a media quarter, here's all these extra training videos that I've recorded, right? You've got a whole bunch of training videos here that you can watch. And then there's actually templates and tools you created. So here, for example, is a press release on how to do a media template. Here's a media contact tracking spreadsheet. Here's campaign examples for a media strategy, inspiration from other Slapsters on how to do it. And so for every single one of the connecting strategies, not only have we said these are the 10 to use, not only have we written the action items that we know get results, but we've also created every training and every template and every tool that you need in order to ultimately do this well in a way that doesn't take a lot of time and doesn't take a lot of money. Now, the last point that I said I was going to touch on really quickly is just around closing deals. One of the things that I think is true for us as small business is that it feels more fun and somehow less intimidating to open up activity, right? And so what I hope you're learning as you go through this training with me is that a connecting strategy, right? Like the beginning phase of a connecting strategy is the opening activities, right? The meeting new people, gathering business cards, doing all the different things that we're doing in order to ultimately, find more customers. That's the end result. But then something happens, we get busy, we get overwhelmed, I think fear gets in the way, and we create all this activity, but we don't actually close it. And so what I just want to say as kind of a closing comment on all of this is that if you actually have a strong SLAP statement, if you know exactly what you do, okay, and if you know exactly who you do it for, and if you genuinely believe that your ideal client has a need that you are really good at solving, okay? So your what really meets the specific need of something that your who, right, is struggling with. So if you really believe that, if you really believe that your what is valuable, and you really believe that your who needs the what that you have, right? So in my case, if I really believe that SLAP is amazing, and if I really believe that my James needs a SLAP, and if he had a SLAP, it would solve one of his biggest problems, which is that he needs more help growing his business, right? If I really believe that, which I really do for the record, then closing deals isn't closing deals, right? That language of closing deals and closing sales, it goes out the window. I never think of myself as closing a deal. What I'm really interested in is solving problems. And so if I am going out there in the world and I'm using all these connecting strategies and I'm doing one a quarter and I'm connecting with more Jameses, right? I'm consistently creating new connections with new Jameses. And then we're getting into a real conversation about their needs. And I actually have something that will solve their needs, then I never have to close a deal. I just have to help my ideal client. I care about James. I want James to grow his business. If he has a SLAP, I know he can grow his business. And so all I'm doing in these moments, me and my team obviously, right? All we're doing in these moments is we're just having great connection. We're learning about James. We're learning about James's needs. We're figuring out what James's need is. If James has a need that SLAP can solve, we're telling him about SLAP. And we're working together. We're just having a great conversation that ultimately results in James's needs being met and our goals being met, right? We just both get our goals met. We both get better because of our relationship. And when you have a really clear what and a really clear who, and you're actually using these connecting strategies to connect with your ideal client, not a bunch of random people who are not your ideal client, then that's possible, right? You're not marketing and you're not selling, you're connecting. You're not trying to keep up with a million different people. You're just using these connecting strategies to connect with your actual ideal client. And then once you're in relationship with your actual ideal client, you're not selling to them. You're not getting gross and closing deals. You're learning more about their needs. You're educating them about how you can help meet that need. And you guys are both winning. You win because you have another customer, and they win because one of their biggest needs is solved. And that's the cycle of a connecting strategy. That's a cycle of growing your business in a way that's beautiful and not gross. That's a way of growing your business in a way that's meeting needs in the world and actually helping the world, not just, being all about, gross activity and closing deals and all that. And so I invite you into 3 things. Number 1, I invite you into a different perspective where connecting and solving needs and being in relationship is the way that you think about growing your business. Number 1. Number 2, I really challenge you and I invite you into a way of thinking about what it means to be in strategic connection, which is 1 connecting strategy per quarter, and really having this 3-month cycle of opening, nurturing, and finishing, and giving yourself enough space and time to not just be starting all the time, but to be starting and finishing in complete cycles and giving yourself the space to do that. And number 3, I really invite you into this idea that you don't have to recreate the wheel, right? Some of these things like creating a press release or, putting together a pitch deck or sending a referral email or thinking about an online presence. These things are things that I think feel really overwhelming. And there's people like us and other people who have created so many great resources and tools and templates so that it can be easy. And so I invite you into this idea that if you just take advantage of all of the resources that are out there in the world, this can be easy and blissful and fun. And so take advantage. Don't try to create all this yourself. Don't try to create the wheel from the beginning. Take advantage of the tools and the resources that are available to you in places like SLAP so that you can do more activity with more grace, find your ideal client in greater volume and create more of these relationships, that will ultimately meet their needs and your own. All right, guys. So thank you for joining this session of SLAPschool. I'm so happy to have you here. I just want to remind you that there is a whole series of experts. We've recruited experts in all of these connecting strategy areas. So there's an expert in referrals, partnerships, hit list, events, media, special deals, online connecting, loyalty, connect prep. And so I've essentially, tapped into my personal network and found people who I think are amazing at each of these things. And over the next, 9 sessions of SLAPschool, every single one of these connecting strategies is going to have an expert speaking specifically to it. And so I really encourage you, look at the connecting strategies that you think you want to use for your business. And make sure you attend those sessions live or go find the recording in the SLAPschool archive because this is really an intro to how helpful connecting strategies can be. And these deep dives into each of the connecting strategies from people who are experts and amazing at them is going to be so full of amazing inspiration and content and knowledge that are really going to help you take your, your SLAP and your planning to the next level. All right. Thanks, guys, for coming to SLAP School. It's always so fun to see you and to talk to you. And I look forward to our next time together. Have a great day.